Hello, everybody. First things first, Liraz and I did not sync up at all, so I have no idea what we are talking about together. But I will just. We have a governance problem, basically, is what we are saying. Right. So I will just say whatever is on my mind. Might not make any sense at all. So just lie to me that you liked it. Thank you. I like that. I like that already. So, to start with, I thought it's interesting to just mention that, I come from a different, non-Eurocentric background. So having a different language skills, opens up your mind to certain funny things. So for example, the word masculinity, right? So in Sanskrit and in Hindi and in some languages, for example, that come from that part of the world, you put the gender on the verb, not on the noun. So what that means is I can say there's a masculine way of talking or a feminine way of talking, but not necessarily a penis-having person talking. So the difference that happens is I can say as a penis haver, I am drinking, so let's say the masculine word for drinking is drinka and for female is drinky. So I can say as a penis haver, I am drinky. You don't have to align the two together at all. And that's like so fucking amazing. I mean, you can get it, right? You can just, so what happens that many of the times we debate about masculine is bad, feminine, blah, blah, blah. But it's just fucking words. I mean, they shouldn't have so much control over our minds. We're just people looking into each other's eyes, and have more. So that's why dichotomies, like for example, masculine, sorry, I'm just taking over governance problem. Dichotomies like feminine, female. I mean, I usually think when we're thinking in terms of dichotomies, it's bad thinking because life is more of distinction than dichotomies. I mean, there's like 20 different ways of feeling drinky, drinka, drinku, drunka, drunk. I mean, you can just keep going at it, right? And we can just be free to make shit up like that as we go along. I mean, who the hell knows? I mean, some days I wake up and I feel drinky, and the moment I'm drinking, in the middle of my drink, I'm drinka already, and I don't even know at the end it could be drinko. So on that bullshit note, I would say that, I mean, what was I talking about? I have no idea. Let me look at my phone.
Everybody's wondering.
What was it?
What are you talking about?
This is what happens when you give like me the stage. I mean, you regret at the end.
Yeah.
Exactly, which I'm already doing. And that's why it's interesting if you look at processes over things. So if you don't think of this as a wooden thing, but as a wooding thing, wooding. So then what happens, it's like, that guy Buddha, you think you heard the name, right? He said things like that, and it's funny because then what happens, you give it the flexibility and the freedom to be what it is to you, and it's a relationship to you, blah, 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 all the rapey stuff, you know that. So, yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about governance too? Or?
Oh, yeah, so sorry, the butter principle.
Yeah.
Always order butter. You will see why. I love butter.
So we were saying that conversations are a lot more effective when you take the simplest possible example, you give that as something concrete, and you talk about that. And we're calling it the butter principle because Anuj likes to say that when he goes to a restaurant, he orders the simplest thing on the menu, which is butter. And if that's not good, then it's a shitty restaurant. He's not interested in anything else.
I throw the butter at their face, and I'm buttering off.
Right.
That's literally what happens.
So anytime we get into complexity, then we're trying to figure out how do we butter this down? How do we make it so simple that we can't fail to notice if we're bullshitting ourselves?
In a complicated curry coming from India, you can put a lot of bullshit. But if it's just butter, no chance for bullshit.
So as an example, before we were talking, I was talking at a very high level about governance failures, the rise of fascism, and Anuj said world peace, exactly. Said no, let's bring it to home. We have also an example of this right here. We have to decide what we're going to talk about and how the discussions are formatted, which is also a governance issue. And that's very concrete. We're all present for this, and we can use that as an example of
sorry, my phone.
yeah, your phone.
Yeah.
So I think yeah.
No, I mean, the thing, like he was talking about how high fancy things. I will make him sound as if he's less intelligent than me, which is not the case. He was talking about high fancy things governance. I said, but what you're trying to ask me was like, does everybody in this room know how the lightning talks were decided? Like, was the process, that decision process, transparent? Was it vetted by everybody? Like, we agree to this, Can you raise hands if you know what the process was? Who knows the process? Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Houston, we have a problem.
Right.
That's like very concrete instead of like high-flown socialism.
Yeah, and bringing exactly we don't so bringing this home. There are sometimes a lot of implicit things that are not said. We don't talk about them, but by making them explicit, by bringing them, by making things transparent, by giving concrete examples, by buttering things down, we turn the implicit into the explicit.
You have to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Keep doing it. It's like that Stalin joke, which I always make, not funny, but I will still make it, so laugh with me, which is, in the times of Politburo, the good old Soviet times. The good old Soviet time, somebody stood up in Politburo, was the meeting of all the commies used to meet and talk about socialism, where somebody stood up and said, but hold on, Stalin is a dictator. And another person stood up and said, you cannot be saying that in the Politburo meeting. A third person stood up and said that you cannot be saying that is a worse thing than saying that, because now you just made it more explicit that not just Stalin is a dictator, but you can't even talk about Stalin as a dictator. So that's why you have to go second order and talk about the implicit and make it explicit and fuck shit up, basically.
Yeah. Well, what implicit assumptions are we making, and just state that out loud. Sometimes when you do that, you notice that you made a mistake somewhere along the way. You didn't notice. And the last thing, which possibly is the most important, Anuj and I both have a tendency to be very expansive. We're curious about everything, so we can very easily get distracted and
Tangential routes.
Yeah, go down rabbit holes, get the stratosphere of philosophy, and
talk about literally butter about like 40 minutes.
Yeah,
like all kinds of
butter principle. So we found this is really productive. It's very fun, but it's really productive. And we've figured out a way to fix it. We just say, well, you have to figure out how to constrain the interesting to the useful, okay? Because so many things are interesting, but constraints are the only way you can really get creativity. Because otherwise, you're just like going all over the place, and you're not really getting to anything concrete, anything actionable, anything you can really apply in an actionable way. So yeah.
Yeah, and so if the moral of the story, if there is one, is if you are in Paris, I live there, I know good butter places. Like they have like very good French restaurants, and Christopher knows, he went to the place in front of my house. Thank you for the meal, you paid for it, thank you. So that's it, right? Thank you very much.